a very important learning today. It is on an emotion which many people will experience at some point of their life, and 9 out of 10 are not capable or matured enough to face that emotion, and that negative emotion is ingratitude. And many masters have highlighted the negative impact of it. So today you'll be learning a thorough analysis on ingratitude. Stay tuned. The podcast is coming soon.
Mr. Sudhakar Kadavasal is an industrialist with businesses in India and UAE. But what he is more passionate about is his social entrepreneurship through Rhapsody Music Foundation, helping over 500,000 children learn through music and promote art through kalakendra.com. His passion for learning got him to meet Sreedharan ji, and ever since, his constant pursuit has kept the interactions with Sreedharan ji very, very animated and challenging.
Welcome to the Mind and Intellect Conversations, a very important podcast today, necessary learning for one and all, an emotion which we feel difficult to process, much less prepared to face, and that particular emotion is ingratitude. To discuss that for our podcast, we have our good friend Sudhakar. In fact, it is Sudhakar who propelled me to discuss on this. A friend, I've known him for quite some time. He's a social entrepreneur. He's done a great deal of work in different parts of the world. He's part of the Entrepreneurs Organization as well. So thank you for joining us, Sudhakar. Wonderful to have you here.
Privilege to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
It's always a joy to have discussions. We always have great conversations, and I've learned a lot, and you seem to provoke many questions for us, and it has always worked out well. Ingratitude was one such conversation, a casual conversation which it snowballed into something very important. Then I understood the value of it and how much it impacts people. So let's get into it,
As
Sudhakar.
they say, it's always easy to ask the questions. I'm grateful to have you in my life to answer many of my questions.
No, always a joy and pleasure. So let's get into it.
Sure.
You always have questions, I know, on this. So
let me start with a very simple question.
Right.
What is ingratitude?
Right. See,
The reason I'm asking this question is when I said ingratitude, many people thought it's not even an English word.
Right.
Ungrateful is something that everyone can understand. But ingratitude is a word that even yesterday I was debating with someone and said, are you sure that's even an English word? So on that context, what is ingratitude?
Correct. Great question. And as you mentioned, not many are even aware that such a word exists. Ungrateful seem to exist. Ingratitude appears more poetic, more literature oriented. But ingratitude is a negative emotion arising from your mind. In fact, it is the opposite of gratitude. Opposite of gratitude, or when a person is ungrateful, the emotion they process is ingratitude. And another way of putting across is ingratitude is an absence of thankfulness. When a person is devoid of indebtedness, that action is called, that response is called ingratitude. And ingratitude is an emotion a person processes. Betrayal is the action. When a person betrays, it is at the action level, the physical level, and the person who is being betrayed, the emotion they process is one of ingratitude of others. So you can even say, when a person has broken the pillars of trust and integrity, the other person appears shaken, and no one is prepared to face ingratitude. Almost 9 out of 10. I have not seen anyone who's genuinely evolved enough to face ingratitude. Great masters have dealt with it well, but anyone short of that ultimate state of perfection, which all these masters highlight, find it very difficult to face it. So, I mean, it is an emotion, if you ask me, or it is a necessary experience everyone may go through. I wish nobody goes through it, but in case a person goes through it, they are completely unarmed. They literally fall and they become powerless. In fact, their thinking freezes. So, ingratitude is an experience, an emotion one has to protect themselves. Expecting others to be ungrateful, you are a pessimist. But if you are prepared to face, in case others' ingratitude, you're a wise person. You are a philosopher.
Very
so,
nice.
ingratitude, that's ingratitude for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, because let me tell you, ingratitude, whole discussion, you sparked that whole fire in us. So, my question to you is, what sparked your interest in exploring ingratitude?
Without sharing personal details
Correct.
that may not belong to me entirely, I'll try to cover this. So two separate instances happened. One very early on in my professional life, I've faced with someone else's ingratitude that literally immobilized me. I could resonate with the statement. How do you arm yourself? Because when you face it, you are completely powerless.
Right.
And I was in a very bad place, to put it mildly. More out of my own inability to handle it, to a point where it was difficult for me to move. And physically, I was in my living room sitting in the couch, and my mom came to visit. I didn't even greet her properly. That was the mental frame of mind that I was in at that moment. And of course, time passed, time heals everything, and I moved on. And then about 4 or 5 years later, there was another instance. Someone I respect a lot, someone who's constantly reminded through his actions how it's important to be grateful in life. There was a momentary lapse in his mind, momentary lapse in his approach to life.
Right.
And he we debated about this also. Why me? And he did ask why me, and that was the real trigger for me to start thinking. Not everyone is ungrateful always. Not everyone is grateful always. And there are instances that the other person could go through, which could trigger them to be ungrateful.
Right.
And there are multiple debates internally I have had. There are only two frame of mind that people go through. One is being grateful. Other is blaming someone or finding an excuse. And the easiest way everyone gets over things is to blame someone,
Right.
or something. The weather is bad. You have given several quotes on this. Complaining about weather is something that you know already it's going to be hot in Dubai or cold in New York or whatever it is. But what is the point of complaining?
Shifting the responsibility.
Shifting the responsibilities to something else. Or we be grateful. Yes, it's hot, but I still have AC at home.
Right.
I could afford
Right.
not having to walk in the heat. So that's the approach for the gratitude. But it doesn't mean that I have not complained about the weather.
Right.
And that is a momentary lapse in being grateful.
Right.
And everyone,
You're
unfortunately, we are roaming around human beings and not among God.
Right.
And so we are not perfect, and we need to understand that.
Correct.
And that's when I started thinking about it. Or even the conversation you mentioned, it all started with why me.
Why me? Yeah.
And you even have given a spectacular lecture on that, and it resonates well with me on that.
I'm glad that you started reflecting on it, because 9 out of 10 don't do that, and they blame others or they blame themselves for what they're going through. And that is not a solution also. But to identify why certain things happens. Sometimes you may not get answers, but ingratitude is something which has to be explored. That's why when you started highlighting it, I didn't give that much importance. But when I started researching on it, reflecting on it enough and more, that's when I understood the dangers of it, of dangers of not dealing with it properly. So, I mean, that's why, I mean, I was very curious because not many have brought up that question to me, and glad that you brought it up because it is a necessary skill set one has to adopt, and this skill set is essential for generations. It is not that it is good now and after, it may not be applicable after 20, 30 years now. People can be ungrateful at any stage of your life. So, the earlier you learn to raise yourself, protect yourself from this onslaught, peace is yours.
So a simpler way that I could overcome that
Right.
was another quote from a dear friend and a well-wisher. He said, blaming others or finding fault with others is like darkness, and being grateful is like light.
Like, absolutely.
One cannot exist when the other one is there. The only way to overcome darkness is to throw light.
Light.
Find small things in life. There are plenty, and that you are grateful for. And these small things in life, one of your quotes, is what gives you the maximum happiness.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt.
So, on that note, what are the common reasons for ingratitude? And how does ingratitude impact relationships?
Right.
I value your lectures on relationships, relationship with myself, particularly on the topic on aloneness,
Right.
And on several contexts, relationship with
thank
material, relationship with people. You've covered everything.
Right.
So I want to.
I'm glad you're asking this question because everyone should learn. See, the common reasons or the fundamental reason for ingratitude, the source is, or the root cause is selfishness. When I say selfishness, when the thought is predominantly on me, mine and myself, at the cost of others. I don't bother about it. At the cost of others, my predominant thought is selfishness. So that becomes the cause. And then that propels other negative qualities like fear and insecurity. So when selfishness and fear and insecurity becomes the cause, it manifests as betrayal and ingratitude. Because you'll always find, so this is the cause. The predominant cause is selfishness, leading to fear and insecurity. And when fear, insecurity due to the selfishness becomes stronger, it will manifest, this negative quality will manifest as betrayal in action, ingratitude in your emotion. So this is the cause. But this is the primary cause. But there is a secondary causes for ingratitude. One of the major reasons people are ungrateful is when they are selfish, plus they are a victim of a strong desire. Selfishness plus a victim of a strong desire. This is where I take the guidance of literature. If you have read Julius Caesar, I'm sure the various literature, I am exposed to some Shakespeare's literature. In Julius Caesar, Caesar is killed by Brutus and few others. And Mark Antony gives a speech, and in that he says, it is the ingratitude of Brutus which killed Caesar. Caesar was one of the greatest kings ever existed. He was very powerful, and he considered Brutus as his own son, like a son. He wanted to make Brutus the leader at some time. But Brutus thought as long as Caesar is there, he cannot be the leader. Brutus became selfish, plus a strong desire, a victim of a strong desire to be the leader. Selfishness plus being a victim of a strong desire propelled him to become ungrateful towards his own mentor, his own, a leader. And he goes ahead, he tells himself, Brutus tells himself, it must be by his death, the death of Caesar. So he plans the assassination, and then 4-5 of the people go to kill him, and Caesar pushes everybody and tries to save himself. But when Brutus comes with a knife, and he looks at Brutus and he says, "You too, Bruti?" Then falls Caesar, and the unarmed Caesar, Brutus kills. And that's what I'm saying. Selfishness. He was thinking of himself and a victim of a strong desire, made Brutus ungrateful. And this is one. Another example where there are many, Macbeth. Macbeth kills Duncan. Another tragedy of Shakespeare is Macbeth kills Duncan. Duncan is a leader. Macbeth is one of the generals in the army. And Duncan, he considered Macbeth as his own son. Was a blue-eyed boy of Duncan. But Lady Macbeth keeps poisoning Macbeth's mind. You kill Duncan, you'll become the leader. And he goes ahead and murders Duncan. And Lady Macbeth is waiting outside and very keen. And when he comes out, hands stained with blood, when he comes out and tells, he stands outside at the time, Lady Macbeth calls, "Have you murdered Duncan? Have you murdered Duncan?" And Shakespeare puts it beautifully. And Macbeth says, "I murdered sleep. I murdered sleep," he says. He never slept after that. So, a strong selfishness to become the leader, plus a strong desire that propels him to become ungrateful. So these are.
While at it, sorry,
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So you, on the Macbeth point, the ingratitude can actually have a mental health impact on both the person being
Correct.
ungrateful,
Correct.
and also the other side.
Correct.
Can you unpack that a little bit? And
That's what. See, ingratitude, one is Caesar faced Brutus' ingratitude. Here, Duncan faced his own ingratitude. So that's why ingratitude, both ways a person suffers. In fact, it is both ways they become powerless. Caesar was taken by surprise. He never expected Brutus to come with a dagger to kill him. And the moment he saw Brutus coming with a knife, I don't know if you've seen the movie, Caesar is standing tall and he says, "You too, Bruti," he says. And it's the same with Duncan. And Duncan couldn't understand that. So that's what I'm saying. One is this aspect, selfishness plus a victim of a strong desire, major one. The second aspect is selfishness again becomes a cause along with ego. In the modern context, you find this kind of an ingratitude quite prevalent. A person is selfish and they're ego driven. And I've seen it in organizations. For some reason, they're removed from their position. Or they are not promoted to the position they wanted to be. Or it could be business. They're not getting certain business deals done. So what happens? There is selfishness plus ego. And when they are removed from that position, their ego gets hurt. And what they do is, they will try to take away some other employees, or they move out of that organization and move into another organization. In the process, they will take another 6 people from the previous organization. Not only that, even the clients they may take away. So another way ingratitude impacts an individual, selfishness plus being a victim of your own ego. And ego we keep highlighting, I'm sure you remember, exaggerated glorification of oneself. Selfishness plus ego. He says, I want to take revenge on this organization. It could be organization, one family against another, a friend against a friend, or a society against a society. Selfishness plus ego makes you very ungrateful. Selfishness plus being a victim of a strong desire makes you ungrateful. So you got to be careful. And now that you mentioned the impact it has on relationships, the biggest impact it has, one is relationship with yourself and the relationship with others. So this impact, that's why if you're unselfish person, the suffering is a little more because you're taken by surprise. Now, you trusted that person. Now, you never thought that this person will break the trust and integrity you have built towards them. So, one, when you're taken by surprise, and the next aspect is you go through a plethora of emotions, and one after the other. It is that's why the first is when it comes to relationship with yourself is you're surprised, and the second emotion you go through is confusion. You don't know what happened or why it happened. You start analyzing various ways. Why me? Why this happened? That the state of confusion continues for a while, and you can't even share that with others because one is that confusion. Because what you have experienced is betrayal of another person, the ingratitude of the other, that surprises you. And then next is, as I mentioned, is confusion. Once you're in a state of confusion, it leads to anger. How dare this person does that to me? What does he or she think of themselves? And how much I have contributed to them? Are they unaware? Are they that ignorant? The second emotion you process with confusion is anger. Enormous anger. How can they do this to me? And third is anger creates disgust. The thought of that person, the thought of that place, that environment creates an annoyance in you. You are disgusted with that whole experience. And it is you are processing it continuously. Taken by surprise, confusion, anger, and now disgust. This disgust will manifest as being short-tempered, not being available for important aspects. You say they could invite you for a get-together. You say, I'm not in the mood. That disgust manifests that way. Then comes fear. What will happen? Am I strong enough to face this? The fear. Next is the fear. You almost feel incapacitated to deal with it. The fear comes in. And along with that, your ego. Your ego doesn't prevents you from sharing that you're fearful. And then there's a shame. You go through, when I say shame, that's when you blame yourself. Why did I trust these people? And you're ashamed to even share that this happened. Because people may think that you're a strong person, you're a go-getter, you've won various battles in life, and you feel ashamed that this person did this to me and I'm not able to process it. That shame and guilt along with it, makes you, this is where it drowns your potential to make better choices. Along with shame comes loneliness. When I say loneliness, you are processing this ingratitude by yourself. You think there is nobody who can help you out in this. It is that slowly you get into a shell with yourself. And then after that is what I call as sadness. Sadness is a state of mind which you have allowed yourself to be in. Sadness. So you got to be very careful. The biggest hit it has is on your relationship with yourself and with your near and dear. See, if your relationship with your spouse, your parents, or your good friends is of a certain level of maturity, then it's fine. Otherwise, they think, why are you behaving this way? If they are not sensitive enough to what you're going through, you're going to experience friction. So that's why you got to be. Not many are prepared, and you have not prepared even to face all these emotions. That's why you're taken by surprise. Then there's confusion, there is anger, there is disgust, there is fear, there is loneliness and sadness. And sadness is that's this. When you become sad, you lose your potential to trust others. In fact, you say, I don't think I can trust anybody.
And that's when they become immobile.
Immobile and then powerless.
Powerless.
It is, see, when we say powerless, energyless. There's no energy for anything. And everything looks like a burden. And everything looks like cannot be done. So that's why I said you got to be very, very careful. And all these negative emotions diminishes your mental health, makes you weak and powerless. Along with that, if a person is egoistic, they have that superiority complex. I can handle it. This is where they don't take guidance from others. They don't even share that with others. And that's when suddenly they go off on a trip of their own. And what are they? And they may say, 1 week I was away. What were they doing? Sweeping, screaming, or writing so many things, scribbling and throwing around. I mean, along with this lack of mental strength, plus a strong ego, superiority complex, you can't share that. People were ungrateful to me, or I've been ungrateful to others. It makes you powerless. In fact, you're not getting any solutions. And if they are not careful at that stage, and if that ego, that superiority complex is strong enough, they become a victim to the wrong sources, and it can lead to their own destruction. As John Milton says, right? Your mind in its own place can make a hell out of a heaven, or a heaven out of a hell. You make yourself, you mar yourself. So this is the gravity of that great dangerous emotion called ingratitude. And there is no other way but to safeguard ourselves. That's why I said we don't need to expect others to be ungrateful, but you got to be prepared. And there's a beautiful statement. People change and forget to tell you that they have changed. If they say, no, look here, Sudhakar, I have just become ungrateful, just watch out. Then you're better off. People change and forget to tell you that they have changed. So suddenly, this is not the person I met. So, and you are thinking, what wrong I have done? You're processing it another way. What wrong I have done? You take the blame. I'm not saying we should blame others. You have to self-introspect and then find some solutions. But this is a reality. And let me tell you, many people could be ungrateful. That's what that's why let's not expect them to be that way. In case some of them are, let's protect ourselves. And in that way, spiritual knowledge is like an insurance premium you're paying.
Absolutely.
Now, I have another interesting question for you, because I can't ask all these questions to others, because you have done enough and more research. Any scriptural...
You make me sound smarter than I am. Thank you.
You are smarter, of course. Is there any doubt? Any scriptural references towards ingratitude which resonates with you?
We have had a lot of debates about this.
Yes.
you have quoted many of the scriptures and the literatures.
Right.
And I constantly complain you quote only from the West. So here is something from the East.
Thank you.
It's from a Tamil literature. Tamil Nadu is where both of us are from, and I'm sure he's read a lot of it also. Just refuses to quote on it on a lighter vein. I'm sure he believes in it, and this is from the famous book called Thirukural. I would call him one of the oldest Stoic literature ever written.
Right.
And with Thirukural is about two line phrases, about 1,333 of them,
yes.
30 of them have been written
on
various aspects of life, and there are quite a few of it on being grateful.
Wow.
I'm not going to attempt to quote it. I'm sure people from the audience who know Tamil very well will find fault with the way I pronounce things. So let me just go to the essence of it. It talks about remembering what others have done to you, which you should be grateful to, and more importantly, forget immediately what they have done to hurt you. And that is one of the that resonates with me very well to help cope with ingratitude. Ingratitude, when someone does express or does an action that is being very ungrateful, all I have to do is remember this quote. Easier said than done. I've forgotten this more often than not. But it's something that when I remember, I realize this is something that I should move on from. They have done something wrong. They they have done it because of their need or because of their oversight, it is not worth remembering and carrying on. And this is said again in multiple forms, right? Most statements people do to hurt you will not work if you don't get hurt.
Right. No, I agree with you.
So it's how we react to things that hurts us more
Right.
than the other's action.
Yes.
I mean, unless the other is a Brutus and who's coming with a knife at you, I don't think so. Most actions can hurt you if you don't react to it.
See, I think what you're mentioning is it becomes difficult when you associate an emotion with an action. And then you dwell on it. You dwell on it. That's when it becomes very difficult. Initial stages, you bring in this clarity, the guidance of thirukural, and then dismiss it. It's easy to deal with. But if you allow it to multiply, all that you need is a half an hour of consistently thinking about it. It becomes very difficult to. The longer you hold on to the thought, the heavier it becomes.
It becomes, yes.
So, but I agree with you.
But can you unpack that a little bit more? I know I quoted a simple 2-line thirukural and says that helps you handle it. But how does one remember this at the time of need? You just mentioned that longer we carry, heavier it becomes. But that's nature, right? We don't remember things when we need to remember.
Correct. See, this is where the role of the intellect becomes stronger. The nature of the mind is to dwell into what has happened. How can he do it? And this is not the way to function. And I've done so much to them. See, the mind keeps processing. It is like a lot of travel, but you're traveling in a roundabout. So that's the nature of the mind. The grandeur of the intellect is it brings in that clarity. Look here, past is past. How many ever times I visit, there's nothing new to learn there. The intellect, it doesn't happen just like that, but with consistent effort, the intellect comes into play. Look here, why it happened, what prompted that person to function that way, I don't have enough clue on it. But one thing is, I am facing the music and I have to deal with it. How do I deal with it? I can continue with that non-acceptance and process it with the mind, and it becomes heavier. Now, I only have hatred towards that person. But when I bring in the intellect and I understand that I don't know for whatever reason they did, I don't know and I don't want to know, because any reason they give may not be satisfying for me, because I've done so much for them. They have no reason to be ungrateful, but still they are ungrateful. So the intellect comes into play. Let's say one was this quote you mentioned. I would suggest have 10 more messages, 10 more such messages. And I used to have that, I used to have this thought. If only you know the power of one negative thought, you will never entertain it. If only you know the power of one negative thought, you will never entertain it. And there's another one. There's nothing in the world that can disturb you as much as your thoughts. There's nothing in the world can disturb you as much as your thoughts. And you make yourself, you mar yourself. You are the architect of your fortune, you are the architect of your misfortune. So I would suggest
But that's not true. I'm the architect of my fortune. Somebody else is the architect of the misfortune. That's today's social media world.
Correct. See, that's what I'm saying. No, you're right. But what I'm saying is have enough and more references. If you have 10, 15, I don't know which one will work. It is, if only I know the power of one negative thought. No, I'm not going to allow it to multiply. Now, it is almost like 500th thought. How can I trace back? So, various avenues. And make sure that anything negative happens, do not bring in your mind. This is another avenue. The moment you bring in your mind, emotions come in. Hatred comes in. Moment you develop a hatred, entertaining hatred is easy. Removing hatred is a lifelong exercise. Yeah. So therefore, anything negative happens, analyze with the intellect. Anything beautiful happens, bring in the mind, enjoy a little more. Anything negative, because mind will not give you solutions. No, it is like, why? All the evil eventually end up being developing hatred, anger. And you're the one who's going to suffer with the hatred. The person who's ungrateful, he has moved on, he has gone on to another relationship and enjoying. But you have not come out of it. So bring in the intellect. That's anything negative, bring in the intellect. And because mind will not help you. Anything good, progressive, you can bring in the mind in the sense of relish it. You have done something right. Give it a pamper for a little while and then bring in the intellect for more. So this is one. Plus, it is the only way to deal with it is another great statement. You've been complaining, I only quote Westerners, but what to do?
Sorry, it's not a complaint. You're more a friend than my guru, and you are more a guru than my friend. So I take liberties.
Please, you have all the liberty.
What is learning without some fun?
It makes it easier.
Yes.
George Bernard Shaw's statement, when somebody asked him, who's the most intelligent person you met? He said, it's my tailor. I said, why? He's the only person who takes fresh measurements every time. Fresh measurements. They've changed. That's it. Therefore, we maintain a distance. The problem is we suffer not because of fresh measurements. We go by the previous measurement. So there are many ways. Whatever ways helps you to bring in the intellect, bring in some level of clarity, you're better off. That's what I would say.
Is it possible that someone that I perceive is being ungrateful, but they don't see themselves as being ungrateful,
right?
And are demonstrating their ingratitude, and that's just unpack that a little bit more. And
see, this is far more common. There are many people who are ungrateful and absolutely unaware that they are ungrateful. Again, one of the reasons is selfishness plus ignorance. Selfishness, they are selfish and they are ignorant. It's like, it is, every parent complains, I wish my children are more grateful to me, towards us, towards the parents. But they are not. It's not that they are ungrateful, they are just ignorant. They are selfish plus ignorance. It's easy to say, become grateful. But to develop gratitude, there must be a lot of awareness. Awareness is what? You've been receiving a lot from the time we are born till the time we are going to be here. From oxygen, from atmospheric pressure, from food, vegetation, so many things we've been receiving. And we are all receivers. That alone doesn't make a person grateful. The second aspect, our inability to repay that benevolence. That is where the ignorance comes in. Our inability to repay that benevolence. We are sitting in a city where security is taken for granted. Absolutely. I mean, you never find a city like this, Dubai, where this level of security, a woman can walk at 2 a.m. still peaceful. And there's so many aspects on security, infrastructure. There's so many aspects. We can be grateful for. But we've taken many things for granted. And you keep highlighting the entitlement. We're entitled to be safe and secure. You're entitled to certain things. So selfishness plus ignorance. That's why ignorance manifests as when you are selfish and ignorant, you are ungrateful unconsciously. That's what it is. Could be a parent, could be anyone, could be the city. We are receiving a lot. We are receiving a lot, but we are unaware. We are aware, but we've taken it for granted. True. And as a result, that gratitude is not a consistent emotion. It is, and we don't express that gratitude also because we are not that much introverted in the true sense of the term. And awareness. So most people, I would say a lot of people are ungrateful unconsciously. And as a result, you've got to be careful. And we're going to encounter this all our life. It is, you're in India, when we are in our country, thousands of people sacrifice for our nation. Just to go and vote in our country, walk there, there's thousands of people sacrificed. We may be informed, but we are not acutely aware. If you are acutely aware, you will be joyful in paying taxes. After all the tax planning, whatever you have to pay, you'll be joyfully paying taxes. So that way, in a family scenario, you could be traveling and you could be very successful. At the home front, a lot of things is taken care. That acute awareness makes you grateful to the partner, to the family. So most of us, it's not that by consciously they're ungrateful, unconsciously. Selfishness and then ignorance and taking things for granted. So this is a disease, and I hope many people become more aware and they are able to raise themselves.
So talking about people being ungrateful and not recognizing, there is also an impact on relationship, right? Most cases, it's one person expecting the other to be demonstrative of the gratefulness, and when that doesn't happen, there is a ruffled feathers within relationship. I'm not talking just marital relationship,
Correct.
all sort of relationship, friendships, business.
In fact, I keep highlighting we have to be expressive of our affection and kindness. We are expressive of our negative aspects, negative emotions. We never fail to refrain from expressing our anger, our frustration, our annoyance. But why can't we be the same in expressing thankfulness, in being grateful, in being kind? So it is essential. And if others are not expressing them, it doesn't mean that they are not grateful enough. They've taken it for granted. And I hope they understand the importance of it, and then they express it, because it does great deal of good to the receiver more than the giver. The receiver feels good and nice about it. In case you have not, they are not expressive, I would suggest to develop one quality, a simple word, but a very powerful and a difficult experience called acceptance. In that context, Sudhakar, one quality we need to develop without fail, you don't have a choice, is acceptance. I'm showing this to you. And a small word, but a powerful quality. In fact, acceptance is a non-negotiable skill set we have to develop. There's no other choice. Non-acceptance, if you make non-acceptance a choice, you have to accept annoyance, anger, frustration. If you make non-acceptance as a choice, but once you have that acceptance, they may not be grateful to you, others, or they may not be expressive of their gratitude, but you can express your gratitude to them. And maybe your expression of gratitude, thankfulness, kindness, courtesy may propel them to inculcate that behavior. That's all I can, because you can try it out, and I'm sure those who are a little more sensitive, every time it could be a simple thing, but he will send a thank you message, or he will send a bouquet of flowers, or he will send a box of chocolates. There's always a sense of, he expresses his gratitude in various ways. Maybe that may inspire them, and they may also become grateful in expression. I always say the words thank you is an expression of gratitude. And don't belittle those words. If you say thankful, you genuinely and joyfully mean it, not just words. So I'm with you. They may not be expressive, but let us develop that sense of acceptance for our own peace and tranquility. I have a question in this regard for you. Okay. What has been your self-reflecting strategies for recognizing ingratitude?
Wow. Okay. Recognizing ingratitude, I think when someone is not being grateful, you will see that immediately. But how do I respond to it, react to it?
Right.
More often than not, I want to accept that I have reacted negatively, hurting myself. But then when realization dawns on me, I remember again one of our, from your lectures again, the Gita lectures, the quote. Again, I'm not trying to quote the verse. I will mess up. I know that. I need to operate within my capacity, so to speak. It's about do your duty and don't expect the results. There are several other philosophies have quoted this also in various forms and shapes. But the essence is that I have done what I have expected to do, or that's my dharma, sudharma, to have done it. Yes, it would be nice for them to say thank you, but it's not expected.
Right.
And that's not what I'm expected to be doing. I did what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't expect the results. The results will come when it comes in its own form and shape. Is how I have tried to process it, and constantly keep learning and relearning on this.
Wonderful. I mean, it is a skill which we all need to develop. Devoid of that skill, misery is something which we have to experience. We all keep telling pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Optional.
So, in that way, maybe you can reduce your level of suffering.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
That's the only way to process this.
I agree with you.
How to manage my own ingratitude? It's not as if that I have been grateful for everything that has happened to me always. And how to manage others' ingratitude?
Let me first one, managing others' ingratitude. We don't have a choice. We have to manage. They say evolve or repeat. Either grow or go through the suffering again. We have to manage and manage it gracefully. So let's start with how we manage others' ingratitude and even our own ingratitude. Few pointers. First, examine the betrayal, which is the action, and the ingratitude which you go through. In that aspect, some kind of a analysis. Now, the first question I would ask is, was it carelessness? Was there a sense of carelessness? When I say carelessness, it was oversight. They were not aware of certain things, and it was not consciously done. So if it is carelessness, you have no choice but to forgive them, and that's one way. Is it carelessness? Second is, was it caused by a weakness? If you experience others' ingratitude, and was it a product of the weakness? They are addicted to something. It could be gambling. There could be some substance. And when they are addicted to their negative aspects, they will go back to it again and again, in spite of all that. I have known people doing ridiculous things because of weaknesses. And that you got to be careful about. When it is a weakness, you got to be cautious. And the other aspect is it a deliberate choice they made? A deliberate action, deliberate and a conscious action, which means they knew what they were doing, they had planned it, they schemed it, and then that action of betrayal happened. So, one aspect I would say is, if it is carelessness, accept, forgive them, give them a chance to grow. If it is caused by a weakness, it's going to take a lot of time for them to grow out of their weakness. You've got to be careful with them. And if it is a deliberate and a conscious act, keep a safe distance. They're not going to change. And you may allow yourself to get more affected. This is one of the ways. Even if we are ungrateful to another, if it is a deliberate, a conscious act, watch out. You're going to be like that to others. If it is carelessness, forgive yourself. It was oversight, carelessness, and you vow to yourself that you will not do it again. If it is arising from your weaknesses, then you have to understand that I'm going to do that again. You can come out of it, but it requires a lot of effort. If it's a deliberate and a conscious act, you are bordering on a extremely negative narcissistic behavior. This is one. Other aspect is dealing with others' ingratitude is try and resist retaliation. Try and resist retaliation. You may want to hurt them because the hurt they have inflicted upon you is very severe, but it is like adding salt to the wound. It's adding like chili to your wound. It is it's not going to end in the right way. So all these great masters have highlighted, choose your battles carefully. Resist retaliation. You got to create protection for yourself, but resist retaliation. So this is the other way of dealing with it. I've just made a few aspects. Another aspect is self-analysis, meaning, what happened? Why did they do that? And you may not get enough answers. You will never get this why me question comes in, and you will never get the right answers. But if the self-analysis, I am the one who's been betrayed, but I am not the one who betrayed others. It's not to pat yourself up, but with that self-analysis is, I am the one who got betrayed. I am the one, they became ungrateful, but I am not the one who was ungrateful to others. I am not the one who betrayed others, which means there is something in me which is betrayable, with something in me which affects which makes me feel for that ingratitude. So, it is time you make objective, clear choices. Something in me is betrayable. Something in me gets affected by ingratitude. So, which means what? There is a lack of acceptance, there's lack of awareness. So, self-analysis helps. And last one is right guidance. All our life, it is we need guidance. The best of players have coaches. The best of musicians have their masters. And you've been dealing with some of the greatest musicians in India. All of them have their gurus, and they are they're aligned to their practices. That's why it says, in areas of ignorance, surrender to a higher intellect. Take inputs from great people. Seek guidance. Have the right satsang. It is surround you or align yourself with some great books, and attend the weekly lectures we have more often, and work on yourself. It is there is, without improving the quality of thoughts and emotions, nothing in our life improves.
When on the satsang topic,
Right.
growing up years, we were all told, choose your friends.
Correct.
You are going to be evaluated based on
Correct.
the friends that you keep.
Correct.
And they also end up influencing you.
Absolutely.
Some of my valuable influence have come from my friends. Their thoughts and their debates.
That's my
The friends
question.
include you also.
Thank you. That's my next question to you. Does cultural attitudes and social media influence ingratitude? Because you've been in the media business and you're far more accustomed to social media platforms, and that's when how does that influence ingratitude? Does it really?
A lot actually. Cultural attitudes again most likely will have positive impact. The old cultures, the old traditions, or even our own immediate elders have always spoken about being grateful, and it probably comes from being aware, being present in the moment. As Marcus Aurelius quotes, an attitude of gratitude in the present moment for anything that comes your way is very, very, very important.
Excellent.
And the social media, I feel, sorry if it's offending anybody, has taken that away. People are more focused on instant gratification. People are more focused on how to get acknowledgements, and more often than not, how to blame others for various aspects. This morning, I was talking to a dear friend, and who was surprised to say, people don't thank you for opening the door. People don't hold
Right.
the
Right.
door when they walk through.
Right.
And why? They are preoccupied on their phones, their headphone, they just walk. I'm sure there have been instances people have noticed they have walked into the door, not realizing the door is not
Right.
open.
Right. Right.
And which means they are not in the present.
Right.
When they are not in the present, from Marcus Aurelius quotes, they cannot be grateful.
I agree.
They are not in the moment. They are just focused on
Correct.
their devices or their preoccupation with what happened on the social media. Why is my friend having more likes than me, and why there is why. There is no self reflection.
Correct.
There is no being in the moment, which I think is very valuable skill to redevelop.
Even if you ask me, the cultural background and influences should make us more grateful.
Of course.
And even social media, even anything used in the right ways can make you grateful. But it is, as you mentioned, it is you look into the social media and you are upset with what you don't have. You process more of what you don't have. And I can imagine it is, and it's a business. I hope people use social media in the right way. It could be a learning platform. And
Of course.
It is-
We can develop being grateful looking at the social media. We can see miseries all around.
correct.
If you open Twitter, you see war everywhere. And we should be grateful for what we have right now.
Correct.
And not complain about what we don't have or what others have that I don't have.
Right.
And that the negative comparison is where the social media can be detrimental. On the positive side, we can learn from the social media to see how we are in a beautiful place that we are in, how
Correct.
blessed we are with our surroundings, with our friends, with our families. And
And we have taken it for granted. And second aspect, when it comes to social media, you believe it's true. It is. I have known a couple posting pictures. They're as if they're the most compatible, loving couple, and in a couple of weeks, when I met them, they are on the verge of divorce. And what I'm saying is, it is when you take it to be true, that's where maybe the problem arises. And ingratitude is, I
mean,
hope.
even if it's true, I think we should be happy for them and not be jealous or not be.
Correct.
Don't have any negative emotions.
Correct.
You've said this in several terms. The negative emotions have more bearing on us than others.
I mean, I wish the cultural attitudes shape our gratitude. I mean, eventually we say, what is gratitude? Attitude, the right attitude creates gratitude.
Absolutely.
I'm glad. Thank you for that insight.
So, to wrap up, what would be your message for listeners struggling with both their own ingratitude and also handling others' ingratitude?
This is one aspect, as I mentioned, a necessary skill we have to develop. Unfortunately, I wish nobody needs to develop this skill because it has come up to that way. And you may have a beautiful equipment, but you need a software for a virus protection. It is you need some virus protection. It's almost like a virus protection. So it is a skill we got to learn. Number one. Number two, as long there is selfishness and insecurity in a person, there is every possibility they'll become ungrateful. One is to deal with the ingratitude, but if you become acutely aware of selfishness and insecurity in you and in others, then you are protecting yourself. You know that there is a possibility of them becoming ungrateful. There's a possibility that they could show their ingratitude towards you. All that they have to do is to sustain their selfishness and insecurity. It will naturally influence ingratitude. The next is, the other aspect is understand and accept most people are ungrateful unconsciously. Most people, most of the time, are ungrateful unconsciously.
I'm sure, including me.
Everyone to some extent, less or more. You may be 5%, another person may be 90%. Each one of us are ungrateful unconsciously. It is so it could be a podcast recording. We are sitting comfortably, the others are standing and facing. Unconscious ingratitude can be dealt only with acute awareness. That's why thank you. It is that words resonates a lot. Then other way of dealing with ingratitude is avoid people who have the potential to be deliberately ungrateful. We mentioned, right? Is it carelessness? Is it deliberate act? Is it carelessness? Is it arising from a weakness? Or is it a conscious and deliberate act? And if you are relating with people who portray this quality of a conscious and deliberate acts of selfishness, watch out. They will be ungrateful. So got to protect yourself from them. Next, do not lose trust in this quality called trust. What happens when you go through others' ingratitude, you lose trust in yourself and others. In fact, I've known some people when they say, I don't trust anybody, they've been betrayed enough and more. So, all that I'm saying is, don't lose trust. I'm not saying trust the same people, but don't lose the quality called trust. Don't lose trust in this quality called trust. Then what happens? You start suspecting. You can't believe anybody and you are in a deeper trouble. And finally, express your gratitude to one and all, but do not expect gratitude. Express gratitude to one and all. Every source. That's why you are aware, most of our class members, when the first thing first thought in the morning is gratitude to my mother, father, my master and the Almighty. The first thought is one of gratitude. Express your gratitude to one and all, but do not expect gratitude. Because you may say, what's wrong in expecting gratitude? Try it out. You may be disappointed. But expressing gratitude is your choice. Reciprocation of gratitude is their choice. So I am not concerned with their choice, but I express my gratitude and I don't expect gratitude from them. It's not a negative quality. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they are preoccupied. Maybe they're taking things for granted. But that doesn't mean that whatever areas I express gratitude, therefore I am protected. So that's my choice to you. Watch out on the selfishness and insecurity. Most people are unconsciously ungrateful. Avoid people who have this negative quality of conscious and deliberate acts of selfishness, and express your gratitude. Whatever ways possible. Don't expect gratitude. To a great extent, you can protect yourself. So that's my suggestions to all the viewers. And thank you, Sudhakar, for first prompting me into this topic. I never understood the depth or the importance of this in an individual's life. So in that way, my gratitude towards you for making me delve deeper into this subject. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you for inviting me to this beautiful podcast, and more importantly, helping me handle and process others' ingratitude and realize my own ungratefulness that I might have been in the past, or unexpressiveness of my own gratitude, and hopefully I will evolve as a human being.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Wonderful, and I'm sure you're going to evolve. When we reach a stage where we express our gratitude and don't expect any gratitude, I think there's a lot of peace of mind in us.
Absolutely.
So thank you once again.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you a few more times. Many more times.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.